mic you up.
Sure. Do you want me to lose the bag or keep the bag?
The bag's perfect.
I love this bag.
You said you love that bag?
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you. Helen back with me.
Nice. All right, cool. All right, can you hit record? Oh, it's been recording?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Editing is wonderful, right? Yes.
Excellent. All right, so tell us your name again for the video.
My name is Mauricio.
Okay, very good. I'm Eris. Nice to meet you. You're from out here?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. And so I'm going around asking people about what the mind is to them. What does that trigger for you, that question? It's kind of a vague question.
So one word comes to mind: consciousness.
Okay, yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, okay. And consciousness, what makes consciousness? What is consciousness?
For me, I consider myself a little bit self-aware, consciously aware. We're always learning and stuff, so I'm always a student, you know. You never really master it.
Right.
You never know when you're gonna master it until.
Right.
But for me, it's more so conscious about doing stuff. Everyone does stuff, and we think about it on the surface level, but there's a much deeper level to that. So, you know, people move around and we all do the same things, but some people do things in a certain way where they're thinking about it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
It's almost more of a subconscious level. You know, they do things because they realize why they're doing it in reality.
Yeah.
Some people like video game characters, they just do things because it's routine or because they're told or because they're inclined to, but not because they deeply align themselves with what the beliefs or morals of what they're doing are, more so because superficial things kind of motivate them.
Right.
And for me, that's kind of like the paragraph that comes to mind when I think about the mind, because the mind is beautiful. We only do some percentage of it, but we can do so much.
Let me ask you something. So I noticed that you're pointing up here.
Yeah.
When you talk about the mind, are you also talking about the brain?
Yeah.
Does the brain make the mind or consciousness?
No. So consciousness comes from somewhere that I don't understand for sure.
Okay.
I think most people would have a hard time comprehending it. For some reason, you know, I feel like sometimes I'm nobody, but to use myself as an example, I have an 8th grade education. I went to one semester of high school.
Yeah.
And
you said 8th grade, okay.
8th grade, yeah. And for X, Y, and Z reasons, you know, you don't get the best education in life.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people say, okay, well, if you don't have that, you know, you're screwed in life. And I think differently, because when I was facing this situation, I was very young. When you're young, you're not thinking as much. Your mind is the actual matter itself is not as developed as it could be.
Right.
But consciousness to me isn't the mind. It's almost like an Akashic realm where you can pull information out if you can get to it. The thing is that you have to develop a certain level of self-awareness to be able to reach that point.
Because you're saying a lot of really important things, but there are ways in which what we're saying doesn't align, because we're saying, you know, different things.
Yeah.
So I want to run something by you. What if someone who studied the brain, a neuroscientist, said to you that the mind, the brain, and consciousness, the brain is what produces this experience, that you are a brain, in fact, and that we've learned a lot about how that brain / mind works. Like, for instance, you know, something simple. Let's say there's this thing called the in-group, out-group bias.
Okay.
The brain has a tendency to have a preference for people who look like us, who are part of our team.
Yes.
And then to be wary of and to, you know, consider threats anyone who doesn't look like they're part of our team, right?
Yeah, it's primal by instinct.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an instinct that every brain has.
Yeah.
And then it can manifest differently depending on what other instincts are competing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But is that interesting to you, to learn about the mechanisms of the brain and think of them as your mental mechanisms, as your conscious and unconscious mechanisms?
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I mean, consciousness itself isn't, how do I say it? It doesn't fully come from somewhere else. There's obviously the physical matter that allows that to go through it, you know?
Right.
Kind of like a landline or electricity
line. Like a conduit or something.
Yeah, but you can't see the electricity, but the physical matter is what allows it to go from A to Z, you know? And to me, it makes sense, you know? I think that what you described in a way is kind of how all humans are programmed by DNA, by biology, originally to be. I feel like sometimes once you get over that, though, and you start thinking a different way, different neurons, different pathways,
Yeah.
different parts of the brain light up, and you create different paths, and that's growth in the matter itself.
That's right.
But that's also growth consciously.
That's right.
And
because
they align
it's
themselves
kind of one, well, not quite one and the same, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the brain that we don't experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, so basically you and I, we're no different from any other animal. We're just animals on this earth.
I love that.
Except our brains are just, you know, have so much more levels, have so many more levels and so on than a lot of the other brains. So now we're able to have all this advanced language, these advanced ideas, to the point where we don't even think we're animals anymore. We don't even think that we're physical things anymore.
But you want to know, I have to stop you. You know why we're so close to those animals still, and why we have so much love and care for them? Because we're not too different from them.
Right.
See, we're DNA-wise very small, removed from these animals.
Yeah.
You know what happens when animals start using tools? It snowballs. And that's what happened with us. We were, you know, almost like animals ourselves in the beginning.
Yeah.
We started using tools, and every single little step you take, neuron-wise, every single pathway you make, snowballs into a greater and greater effect, to the point where we start evolutionary faster and faster.
And when because you develop a capacity like language, which allows you to have even greater capacities. Language allows more complicated thought, for instance.
And we have animals that have more complicated languages than us.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about more complicated, but definitely it's hard to compare.
Dolphins are pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't understand the full scope of their language, so we can't even say
that. That's hard. That's why it's hard.
Yeah, it's absolutely hard. Sometimes some certain animals are almost alien, like octopuses on a different level, but we don't know, so we only understand what we know, and we still discover. And that's the beauty of what we're talking about. Your brain is constantly evolving, and humans ignore that in their lives, and they do routine things that don't lead to this evolution. There are people who choose to think about it, and when you think about it, you start doing life differently, because you know that leads to the evolution. But most people don't understand that. You put 96 people in a room, 4% who are thinking consciously aware might be right in certain situations, and the 96% of them who are wrong will cannibalize them, because they'll think that because the majority thinks a way, that's the right way to think.
And then they justify it, right? It's easy, especially
through religion,
smart people like us,
like that,
even us, when we're wrong, it's easy for us to justify it and not see that we're wrong. You know, so I mean, it's like that. Man, I want to. So I'm gonna cut the interview there. I want to continue. I want to have another conversation with you. Maybe next time I'm downtown.
Yeah.
Do you have a phone that's on?
Yeah, I have a phone.
Great. Let me give you my number right now. Yeah.
But I've been this way as a child. It happened to when you left a couple years ago. It started changing. It started becoming more and more conscious in the way that I can now talk about things. And in a way, I'm not good at this. So I haven't nowhere near even mastered it or learned how to even do it. But in a way, people relate to me on different levels. I can guess things that most people couldn't guess. Things that aren't things perceptive. I can talk about a subject and find information in my brain that I've never read before. But if you Google it, it's factual. It makes no sense. You know? It's almost like I look at things, and I don't know if I look at something, it's like photographic, but not in photo, more so like in concept in my mind, or what it is. But I really feel like I pull information from somewhere that we can't see in the mind. And that's why I believe, when I was telling you earlier, that in the mind, it is matter. But I more so believe the matter is a conduit. And I don't say this from a place of lack of faith. I believe I'm an experience myself. So I can only describe it as that way, and that's how I feel.
All right, let me say something. So I'm trying to we're basically, what we're trying to do is talk about these things, these topics that we've been talking about. Particularly like how thinking works, and how unreliable it can be, how unreliable our own perspective can be, how much confidence, all this stuff.
Yeah, you hit it.
Yeah. So we want to work on that and figure out how do we get other people interested in that. And we're trying to make videos where we talk about these things and inspire other people to learn more about it too.
I do the same thing. I just don't know how to. I don't know how to work cameras. I don't know how to do that. People tell me you should start a channel, because when you talk, it's like a podcast in everyone's ear, and everyone's just like, even family that doesn't speak English, they're like, when you talk to people, I see the captivation.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so
I need to do this.
Let me ask you a question. So,
force myself to do this.
Are you, if we say that, like you're this brain, and we can talk about whether it might be like a conduit or whether the brain itself is the origins, that's another conversation, sort of. But either way, you know that you are fallible, that you can make mistakes, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
I think all the time.
Are you willing to learn about sort of the mistakes that brains tend to make, and even when you don't feel like you're making a mistake, consider that you might be wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if I explained to you like, because there are a lot of beliefs that we are sort of programmed to have. You know, it was just beneficial for our ancestors to believe certain things.
To this day, we still see it in our families.
Yeah.
We still see it in ourselves.
In ourselves, right? And so, and some of those things, once we realize where those beliefs are coming from, we have to sort of try to see them differently or unlearn them. You're prepared to do that? If let's say that you have a belief, and then you read in a neuroscience book about how humans often make this mistake of believing this thing, and it seems true to us, even though like here's why it seems true to us and here's why it isn't actually true. You're open to that?
Yeah, I would say something. People who are intelligent, they're inquirers, they're smart,
right?
They you know,
but it's also easy, like I was saying earlier, for us to justify the answers we come up with to our questions.
And that's why we have to look at things from a kind of a third point.
That's right.
View,
That's right. And look at the evidence, look at the research,
objective.
Talk to other people, get their perspective. Absolutely. Okay.
Sometimes I feel like it's hard for people to do that because, for instance, you have family, you have friends. Okay, their beliefs are very rooted in your life. Sometimes it's hard because you might inquire about certain things and come to a different conclusion after
they
a long
don't want to
time.
hear it, right?
And you don't want to break people's hearts. You know, people don't want to be socially different, but we feel it. And some people are scared to talk about that. Some people express their beliefs. Some people express their beliefs in a bad way, a good way. But everyone thinks about something. And I think you kind of hit it earlier. We said you want to kind of expand people's thoughts on thinking, because people don't think about thinking.
We call that metacognition. Thinking about thinking. All right, that's so cool. You know what? Maybe I can do next time I come. I'm going to bring you a book that I recommend.
Sure.
To so you can sort of get started in this, and then so they basically we just try to meet. You know, I mean, it's small. It's only like 3 or 4 of us right now. And I just moved back to the country. I was in Europe for 10 years. Just moved back in France mostly. Okay. Spain for a year.
Spain's beautiful.
Yeah. Have you been to Spain?
I've been to Switzerland.
Switzerland, really beautiful. That's one of them.
The woman didn't want to let me go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's
should have stayed, man. Should have stayed.
So all right. So we'll link up. Maybe next weekend I'll come into the city.
Sure.
And I'll send you a message and we'll link up. And I'll see if I can bring you a copy. There's one book that's really good called "You Are Not So Smart." Right now, you are smart.
I've heard of it.
But also, it'll help us be humble because even though we're smart, we still are definitely making important conceptual mistakes and not noticing.
When I talk about things, you notice that I say I'm below. I'm the ant. I'm the ant. I'm not even a student yet.
That's perfect.
You know, some people learn a little bit of knowledge and they think they know most about it.
And that's called Dunning-Kruger. Is the less you know, the more comfortable you feel with the topic, the more confident.
You notice something? You notice that I say a lot of things. I have no idea what Dunning-Kruger is. You know what it is. You know what the term is. You know where it comes from. I just know what it is. Yeah. So where you go to school? Where are you educated from?
I didn't finish my bachelor's. I went to UIC for a year and then a school out in Oberlin for a couple of years.
UIC school? Yeah. So you have a good education. You have a really good education, you know?
And I've been reading about the brain since I was like 13. So.
Interesting. That makes our conversations every day, even though they're small and stuff, they put into perspective things along the way.
Yeah. And also, and that's what's going to be great. A lot of things that you're observed, you're going to have the name for it. And you're gonna have the research. You're gonna learn about the research, how we discovered and all that. Okay, good. I gotta go catch up with them, see how they're doing. This has been an absolute pleasure and one of the best interactions that I've had. So this is really cool.
Fantastic.
Really encantado, and I'm gonna try to see you next weekend.
Sure.
I drive at night for Uber, so I can't make any.